We are living in a golden age of new TCGs, where it feels like every other day we've got a new one coming out. And a lot of them are coming from Kickstarter because it's a pretty accessible way for people to raise the funds to start these projects and businesses. And at the moment, a lot of them are doing really well and raising quite a bit of money. But it also feels like we've got a kind of dark cloud hanging over the whole thing. And most people who are more involved in the trading card game world seem to agree that this era isn't going to last forever. This golden age of free trendies and new games skyrocketing in price and value is going to come to an end. And when it does, there's going to be a reckoning. Now, while none of us know when the reckoning is going to happen, I do expect it within the next year or two. As a lot of these games get out the door, they sell some product, they try to get off the ground, and then when they fail, people leave and they go to another one, and then when that one fails, people will leave and go to another, and then when that one fails. And so I think that this reckoning is going to come slowly at first. It's just going to be one game fails, then another, and then you get a Kickstarter that doesn't deliver, and then all of a sudden the dominoes start to fall as the confidence starts to wane. And we're going to see all the investors and flippers who don't actually care about these games run for the hills and go and extract from something else like NFTs or some other dumb shit. And this will obviously have the biggest impact on all of these new games who haven't quite found their footing. They don't have the strong player support base. And so when one goes, the confidence in all of these new games will start to shake. And then when another one goes, it will shake even more, and another one goes, and then you're just gonna see this rapid decline, and these games are gonna crumble to dust. And it will be a time where only the best will be able to stick around. And I'm not just talking the best game, but also the best companies. And Flesh and Blood is not going to be immune from this event either, because it's still a relatively new game. I actually think that when the reckoning comes, when we see the dominoes fall and game after game starts to crumble and where the market gets completely shaken up, because we are at this absolute high right now. The crash is going to be massive. And I actually think a lot of the people putting money into these things are gonna run right back to Magic and Pokemon because those have stood the test of time. Those games will still have a lot of confidence in them. Whereas all these newer games are gonna get the brunt of the blast, and then even games like MetaZoo and Flesh and Blood, which are more established, are also going to feel the turbulence from it. Now, I don't think this is gonna be the end for Flesh and Blood. If we can survive the Monarch fiasco, we can survive pretty much anything at this point. But I do think that the collectible market, especially for Flesh and Blood, is going to be affected. But the game absolutely has a strong enough player base that it's not going to topple the game. Players aren't really gonna care if the super collectible stuff suddenly tanks in price. In fact, some people like myself will actually be kind of happy because it will give us an opportunity to buy up the stuff. And then when confidence returns to the trading card game world, well, we might have collections that are worth a lot of money and we were able to get them for far cheaper than what they're actually worth. But I don't think that the reckoning is going to just stop at the card games that exist at the time. It's also going to impact new games that want to come out for probably a few years. I mean, think about it. You got all these new Kickstarter games, people are backing them, they're hoping that they do well, they're hoping the game lasts, and then if a bunch of them crumble, which most of them are, that's gonna kill any confidence in Kickstarter TCGs for a long time. People aren't going to be willing to put their money behind something to help it start. I mean, think about it. Up until Flesh and Blood and MetaZoo, it felt like you couldn't make a new trading card game. That is a belief people held for years, that you're never gonna beat Magic, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh, so why even try? I mean, the last game that seemed to get some decent traction was Force of Will, and then they messed up big time and really burned a lot of stores. And that really hurt a lot of people's confidence in these new games again, up until Flesh and Blood. I believe that this is the game that restored the confidence in new games and is what led us into this golden age of new TCGs. And so again, I think Flesh and Blood is going to be fine. It's going to be a turbulent time. It's not going to be fun for everybody, but it's gonna get it through. The player base is strong enough that people aren't going to leave Flesh and Blood just because the market's a little bit topsy-turvy. And hopefully some of these other new games also survive, because I do think that some of these have genuine potential and could actually be very fun, very good games. But as I've said many times, the world is a cold, cruel place. And if you want to survive, if you want to make it to the top, you have to be putting the best game and business out there. You can't half-ass this shit. And if you're doing so, well, when the reckoning comes, are you prepared?